Honestly, it's just getting comical at this point. Only a deranged Democrat, left-wing, radical psychopath would be advocating and supporting the wealthy stealing from the poor. Like, you were in line at a food bank in your 50 grand car. Honey, go to your jewelry box, take a couple pieces of jewelry, go into your closet, get a couple of designer handbags, go sell them. That would be enough to sustain you until you got better employment. You have four-wheelers, you have boats, you have this, sell those. These are things you do before you go to the food bank and start stealing food from people who genuinely need it. Like, these are all just material things. Unless it's your wedding ring or a family heirloom, everything's replaceable. There is no way in hell I would not utilize every resource and go into survival mode before I went and asked for free food and took it from people who genuinely need it. I mean, what would y'all do if there were no food banks? Do y'all have absolutely no survival skills? Because the people who genuinely need this food that you're taking it from, they have those skills. They have used all their resources before they have even come here. It's people like you that abuse the system and make us want it to be obsolete. Be advocating and supporting the wealthy stealing from the poor.
That's not our side of the political aisle. That's yours. That's your side. Your side has been doing that for 40 years. You don't look old enough to even remember it, but I do. It was your side that elected Reagan, and Reagan was the death knell of the New Deal. Reagan thought that if we freed the wealthy from taxes, that the money would trickle down to the rest of us. He even called it trickle-down economics. His own vice president called it voodoo economics. And yet, for some reason, over 40 years, no Republican, that's your side of the aisle, yours, has come up with any other plan other than slashing taxes on rich people and deregulating everything. You know, the Environmental Protection Agency, the one that Republicans continue to gut, it's the ones that protect the environment. It was started by Nixon. Nixon was a Republican, but obviously he wasn't right-wing enough because they brought in Ronald Reagan, and he cut more. Every Republican president has tried to cut taxes on rich people. Then you get this jackass that's sitting in the White House now. He's done it not once, but twice. They only believe in trickle-down economics because they have no other ideas. And what they have done over the past 40 years, and you are a living, breathing example of this, is convince poor working class people that those rich folks are looking out for them. They're not. Because the tax burden on the working class goes up the more we cut taxes to these rich folks. You will demonize the poor because, quite frankly, you don't realize how much of a mouthpiece for these rich bastards that you truly are. You don't get it. I do, because I see it. I see it every single day. People who are barely hanging on, thinking that one day they'll be like them. When the game is rigged, you lost it the moment you were born, you will never find a way to win, and they will intentionally tell you it's because the poor people get food stamps. The idiocracy of it all is what really bothers me. I would say you're supposed to be smarter than that, but I realize now, no. Some of you are not. That's part of that destroying of the education system. You would know these things, but you don't. What the rich want is serfdom. Go look it up. Serfdom. They want the way it was in feudal Japan, or when the poor in Russia, or the poor in France. That's what they want. And what they did, that the poor in Japan, the poor in France, and the poor in Russia didn't do, was that they had people like you spreading their message. And that is exactly what you're doing with this video. You would know this if you didn't think facts were a scary thing. You're probably a Christian.
This white woman regrets messing with black people. How can she dare calling black people food thieves? She says that black people steal food stamps from people who truly deserve it. She even asks black people, how did they do if there were no food banks? She asks them, don't they have survival skills? Because people who truly deserve the food stamps have already depleted their survival skills. She says that black people should get into their jewelry box and sell their jewelry. They should get into their closet and sell their designer handbags. She says that unless it's a wedding ring or a family heirloom, everything else is replaceable. You know, she faces instant karma. Yeah, so she regrets messing with the wrong black people. So let's get into the rest of the video. I'll be right back with more commentary. See you shortly.
Too, aren't you? Probably. Pretty sure of it. Because that goes hand in hand with it as well. You see, in the 1980s, there was an unholy trinity made. That trinity was politics, business, and religion. You believe those prosperity pimps that hold on to that Bible every Sunday as if you're actually going to be one of them when you will not. And their submit message gets so ingrained in your head that you then think that the business owners know what's best, that they're the smartest, and that they work hard. They don't. Most of these people are CEOs of companies, and they have never had to get their hands dirty. But that's been the way it's been throughout American history. J.P. Morgan wasn't rich because he was working in steel and oil. No, J.P. Morgan was rich because he sat on his ass while other people worked in oil and steel. Randolph Hearst was not a brilliant journalist. No, Seymour Randolph Hearst was a business owner who had other people being journalists. You see, it is people such as yourself that hold the poor back from ever fighting back. It's you. I want you to understand, when everybody else is in the room talking about solidarity, unionizing, they're talking about a labor uprising, it is you turncoat Benedict Arnold-ass people who inevitably will ruin it. You are probably one of the reasons that people don't organize into unions today, because of people like you believing the lie that the rich have told you. And you come onto the internet after saying this and thinking of yourself as being proud. No one is stealing from the rich, it's the other way around. The rich are stealing from the rest of us. We have seen massive amounts of wealth be redistributed to the rich, and then the rich telling you that, oh my goodness, they're coming for your stuff, not realizing you are amongst people who all have stuff too, but they also cannot afford rent, cannot afford food, cannot afford health insurance. And here you are selling them out. I know This is a ardent task for you to even watch this video because it's over 3 minutes long. That's your attention span. So let me reiterate to you exactly what I said earlier in case you forgot it. You are the reason that 40 years of brainwashing, 40 years of redistributing wealth to the top 1%, the reason these people can buy politicians as well as they buy yachts and planes, you are the reason. You are. You are the reason there is no class solidarity amongst the working poor. You are the reason that unions have fallen out of favor. You. You are the reason the education system, or you are an example of what happens when the education system is destroyed. And you think you're proud. You're also fake. You are the reason that Christianity is on the wane here in America. Because you refuse to do any work and realize how incredibly silly you sound. I would say go get a clue, but I'm pretty sure you couldn't even find that. Congratulations, Judas. You betrayed all of those who are working because you think you'll be like one of these assholes one day. Spoiler alert, you won't.
Sorry to break it to you, but if you vote for somebody that says taxing the rich will make your life better, unfortunately, you are the method. That has to be quite possibly the oldest scam in the book, and you just fell for it. Let's tax the rich. Yes, let's take money from the rich and give it to the poor. Sounds good in theory, except wealthy people don't make money the same way you make money. You have income, your income gets taxed. The wealthy don't work that way. Let me give you an example. I'm not even wealthy. I wouldn't consider myself there yet, but I am 24 years old. I have a business that'll do about $8 million this year. I have a sick life. I get to do whatever I want. I get to travel all the time. I get to live in a nice place. I get to have great meals. Yet I paid like literally next to nothing in taxes last year because I lost money. I pay myself very little from my business because I don't want to have a lot of taxable income. And most of the things I do, I just write them off. And it's not a scam. I'm not gaming the system. I've just built my life around the system. For example, I have a podcast, right? I run a business podcast. Whenever I want to travel and see my friends, I schedule a podcast in those cities. So if I want to see my friends in Miami, I will go to Miami to do a podcast, and I'll just stay an extra day to see my friends. And now that $1,500 first class ticket and that nice hotel or Airbnb that I definitely enjoyed, I wrote it off. That was a business expense because I had to fly over there in order to do that podcast. I make very little money. I take home very little money, but I still get to live the life that I want. And therefore, I am not taxed that much. If you raise taxes on income, which is what most of these Democrat and socialists and communists want to do, you are at the end of the day just going to hurt the people that actually really deserve to keep their money, which is like doctors and engineers, like the people that work really hard and went to school for a long time to get good at a very important profession. They are going to be the ones hurting the most. It's not going to be the ultra wealthy. It's going to be like the second generation immigrant who went to college and then went to medical school and became a doctor. And now he's losing half his income a year because other people out there are lazy and don't want to work for themselves. Sorry to break it to you, but if you vote for somebody that says taxing the rich will make your life better, unfortunately, you are the method. That has to be quite possibly the oldest scam in the book.
Hey guys, this rich guy is trying to explain to you why taxing the rich is actually a scam. Hey guys, I'm a burglar, and this is actually why it's more dangerous to lock your doors, because if you lock your doors, I have to come in through the window, and that's gonna cost you more money. Hi, I'm a lion, and it's actually more dangerous to have bars between us and the people because the barrier aggression is going to make me angrier. Hey, it's me, your cat. And this is actually why it's worse for you to keep the food in the cupboard instead of leaving it out in the open, because then I'll get really anxious, and I think you should leave the food open for me to get at my own pace. Do you think we're all idiots and that we've never heard of tax breaks or write-offs, like business write-offs or tax credits? Also, do you think that we're so dumb that we don't understand how tiered tax systems work? He goes on to say like, oh, actually, like you're gonna be hurting like the immigrant doctors, but let's take Zohran Mamdani's tax plan where it's like an additional 2% tax increase on people who make over $1 million of income per year, right? Your average doctor in New York City makes anywhere between $200,000 to $500,000. That's like $500,000 being like the most well-paid surgeon, right? This income tax would quite literally never touch them. It's not just if you have $1 million, it's if you make more than $1 million. And then everything under that $1 million is not taxed by that amount. It's the amount above the million that receives that 2% tax increase. So no, it doesn't just not do anything. Rich people, even though they have a lot of tax breaks and tax write-offs and incentives in various ways, still do have to pay taxes at the end of the day, even if they're finding a lot of loopholes. It would still result in more tax money. And so then people say, oh, but wouldn't they just move? A study by Stanford professor Cristobal Young shows that statistically, no, not really. People are very unwilling to give up their lifestyles. Approximately, I think, 2.4% of people who make that highest tax bracket are willing to move because of tax increases. Also, the rich are clearly willing to spend this money. Mamdani consistently joked that they were spending more money on Cuomo's campaign than he was going to tax them in the first place. That's why Zohran Mamdani was joking in the first place that they were spending more money on Andrew Cuomo's campaign than he was going to tax them in the first place. As you said, rich people's money is not all held up in income. A lot of it's held up in real estate and assets, things that aren't completely liquid, meaning that because they have a total net worth or wealth, that doesn't mean that that's the amount of taxable income they have. So it's already a fraction of the money that they were making that year for real. If the rich guy tries to tell you that you shouldn't actually tax him because that would be you getting played, meanwhile, rich people are lobbying for candidates who will lower their taxes and give them additional tax breaks, he's fucking lying.
The only way America will recover is by taxing the shit out of the wealthiest people in this country, because they need to pay their fair taxes. And they supported this shit. So their punishment will be to be taxed out the hoo-ha. They need to be taxed. And they will be taxed because, to be honest, the amount of money that this administration has stolen, when we find out the amount of money that has been stolen from the American people, the American public, I think people are going to probably shit their pants. Like, I'm not even kidding. How does somebody become a trillionaire while their company is literally failing, right? Where'd the money come from? Where'd it come from? It came from us. It came from us. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I hope these corporations, they're seeing, these blue waves occur. I hope they're ready to get taxed. Because it's long overdue, y'all. It is long overdue. And I literally can't wait. I can't wait. Just like we see even with New York, all them rich people in New York talking about if Mamdani wins, they're leaving. Where they going? They ain't going nowhere. They gonna go to Florida? That's a joke.
Every single time that I talk about taxing rich people fairly, my comments are filled with people saying, do you really think a billionaire has $1 billion? You can't tax their income because it's not actually income. It's all in the stock market. I know, sweetheart. I know that. I'm not saying we should raise the personal income tax rate on these rich people because I know that that wouldn't work. You can do it for fun, but they're just going to find another way around it. What I'm saying is that you should not be able to claim that you don't have that money enough to not pay income tax on it, but then also turn around and use those stocks and that equity as leverage to take out loans that you can go spend on other things. Do you have it or do you not? I think that if you are worth over a certain amount of money, you should not be able to take out loans against your assets if you have not paid taxes on them. These people fund the majority of their lifestyle on assets that they claim are not theirs so that they don't have to pay tax on it. That's what's wrong with the system. And to the people who compare it to like a HELOC, taking out a loan against the value of your house, you pay taxes on your house. You pay property tax on your house, and you pay tax on it when you bought it. That's also assuming that you already have a house or other assets, which is not the reality for a lot of people. So still, it's only available to some people. So it's not the same, and I'm so tired of regular people pretending that the magnitude of the very few tax advantages that we are able to access are even remotely comparable to those of rich people in this country. And I'm tired of the working class people in my comment section standing 10 toes down for billionaires who don't give a fuck about you. They're standing at the top of the mountain watching you struggle from their penthouse while they lobby your elected representatives to continue giving them and their companies tax breaks that they don't need, hoarding 99% of the fucking wealth in this country, and you're taking time out of your day to defend them in my comments. I need these people to wake the fuck up and realize that the ultra wealthy are a minority in society, yet somehow all of our policies are catered to them and not to the majority who is the working class.
You've been lied to. We did tax the rich. We taxed them hard, actually, up to 94%. And no, it didn't kill the economy. It literally saved it. So why doesn't anyone talk about that? Because billionaires don't want you to know that it actually worked. Every time you talk about taxing the rich, there's always the people that say the same things. That's not fair. They'll just leave. They earned it. This won't fix anything. It'll just hurt jobs. But the truth is, we've already tested this. We taxed the rich hard, and it built the most prosperous era in US history. Here's exactly what happened. In the 1940s, President Franklin D. Roosevelt raised the top federal income tax to 94%. Yes, I know that number sounds crazy, so let me explain. That didn't mean that people were losing 94% of the income that they had earned. That's called a marginal tax rate, and it only applied to income above a certain threshold. In 1944, the 94% tax rate only applied to income above the $200,000 income threshold. So essentially like making, I don't know, $3.5 million today. So that means that you would pay the normal rate on the first couple million, and only the income above that would be taxed at this 94%. And I feel like that's the part that nobody ever really explains, and the billionaires count on that confusion to protect themselves. So what did this money pay for? It paid for the New Deal, including Social Security. It paid for massive public jobs programs during the Great Depression. It paid for all of World War II. It paid for the GI Bill, which sent 8 million veterans to college. It paid for the interstate highway system. It paid for the original versions of Medicare and Medicaid. It paid for public universities, hospitals, housing, and scientific research. And one-income households could actually afford a house, a car, and a vacation. And all of that? Yeah, all of that happened when the richest of Americans were paying between 82 and 94% on their highest income. And guess what? The economy fucking boomed. And then came the 1980s. Reagan slashed the top tax rate from 70% down to 20%. And what happened? Wages stopped growing, middle class started shrinking, the CEO pay exploded, billionaires hoarded record wealth, and income inequality has skyrocketed ever since. So no, this is not some coincidence. The second we stopped taxing the rich, everything started falling apart for the working people. So let's shut down the excuses one by one. But that's not fair. You know what's not fair? Is billionaires using things like public roads, public schools, courts, police, and workers, and then hiding their wealth in offshore accounts and shell companies, you know, to avoid paying taxes. They didn't get rich alone. They used a system that the rest of us paid for to get to where they were. But they'll leave the country. Nope, try again. The US taxes worldwide income. So even if they do move, they will still owe money. And when France passed a wealth tax, fewer than 1% of rich people actually left. Cause be so fucking for real right now. Do you really think that these billionaires are gonna be giving up their Manhattan condos and their media empires over a 2% wealth tax? Let's be fucking serious. It'll hurt jobs though. The biggest job booms in American history from the 1940s to the 1970s all happened while the rich were taxed the most. Because back then it made more sense to invest in your workers rather than spending millions on stock buybacks. But it won't raise enough money. False again. A 2% wealth tax on people worth more than $50 million would raise around $3 trillion in 10 years. And if we also did things like, I don't know, taxing capital gain like income, closed estate tax loopholes, and remove the Social Security income cap, we could raise over $10 trillion without ever touching the middle class. Oh, and with that money, we could easily pay for things like, I don't know, universal childcare, tuition-free public college, canceling all student debt, national paid family leave, a real national housing strategy, fully funded Social Security and Medicare, public transportation upgrades, climate infrastructure, and real reparations programs. I don't know, all of that without raising taxes for real everyday working people, just by taxing the extremely wealthy people, you know, like we fucking used to do. And these billionaires would still have way more money than they could ever know what to do with or spend. So no, taxing the rich is not this new radical idea. This is how America used to work. It built the middle class, it won wars, and it gave millions of people real stability. And when we stopped, the system broke. Wages froze, prices soared, and the rich kept everything. So when they say we can't afford to tax the rich, what they really mean is we don't want to share. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm sick of sitting here fighting over breadcrumbs at the bottom of the table when somebody else is eating the entire feast. Fucking wake up, people.
Do you think that it's only black people who depend on food stamps and government support? Because if then it's black people, who are the poor that are going to be helped if it's not white people? A diabolical question I'm asking. You know, the statement of this white woman telling black people that not to steal because the food will help the poor and the people that deserve it reflects a deeply rooted ideological and racial problem. Saying that black people are the ones stealing and not white people, others she approves are the ones who truly deserve the assistance, is not a neutral language, right? It is deeply rooted in the long history of racial stereotyping that associates blackness with criminality, dependence, and moral inferiority. For the longest time, white people have been, saying that black people are lazy, black people are thieves, black people don't like to work, black people this and that. They have been saying that black people are the ones that depend on food stamps to survive in the United States. But that's not true. Majority of the people, in fact over 76% of the people survive on government welfare are the white people. For instance, at the moment, who are the people who are being hurt by the economy? They are the white people. Why? Because majority of them are the ones that depend on the government support. Now at the moment that the healthcare, the food stamps are gone, who is complaining the most? Is it the black people or is it the white people? The MAGA. You'll find out that the MAGA people, because they are the ones that are used to depending on the government, because we all know that the system is, designed to favor the white people. And somebody told me that if you hear the white people keep, saying or claiming that it's black people, depend on government assistance or depend on the government welfare to survive in the United States, then it's not really the black people. It's the white people themselves who depend on the government welfare. Yeah, so this white woman faces instant karma because she messed with the wrong, with the wrong people, because black people are giving her, they are not entertaining her at all because they feel offended because majority of them don't depend on the food stamps. Black people have lived to be oppressed in the United States. They have been, they have lived to be associated with criminality, with everything negative that can be associated to a human being. Black people have gone through that. That's why they are even, not entertaining this white woman. Yeah, so let me know what are your thoughts and opinions about this down in the comment section. Stay safe. See you in the next episode.